This is the Nightbreed Cast, where we talk about EverQuest Next for now, and every other game that we either despise or love playing. There are two of us. I am Eyesadrift, and
I am Oavvigo.
there we go. I call him Oavvigo, Avocado, whichever. But yeah, so we're just basically starting this right now. It's our first one, so please bear with our nervousness and shit, and we will start following the outline of what we're going to do. If you want to start, that's perfectly fine with me.
All right. I guess the first thing we'll discuss is, let's go to graphics stylized for the EverQuest Next.
All right.
Yay or nay?
Ugh. The environments look great. I gotta say that, okay? But the characters themselves, it's a little too cartoony.
Right. Yeah, the argument is that stylized graphics have a longer life, I guess, at looking fresh.
That is a stupid question by a rather stupid person.
Which I actually don't agree with that idea.
Right, yeah.
I was of the opinion that WoW looked like shit when it came out, and it still looks like shit.
Yeah, and it always will look like shit.
Right. So yeah, I kind of liken it to if you watch Japanese animation,
mm-hmm.
you can date Japanese animation by the style of the drawings, the cartoon, the graphics.
Oh, yeah.
So, saying that stylized graphics in a game is going to look fresher for a longer period of time is not really. It's still going to be dated by its style. Because other games will come out, they will copy it, what have you, and I just... while it's not a deal breaker for me, I don't agree with the idea that it makes the graphics look fresh long. I just don't agree with it.
Yep, I am, and I agree with you. What that leaked screenshot that Smedley put out there was a couple months ago of the armor. It wasn't colored or anything, but it looked like it was going to be kind of like realistic type graphics.
Right.
Which would have been really cool to see. Because the last game that did that, well, Star Trek Online did it, but it was a horribly executed game, in my opinion.
Right, it had some issues. The especially the away team, the ground combat was had a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, that's another subject.
Right. Yeah, so I was a little surprised when I saw the graphics in the preview that they did at the SOE convention.
Right.
With the what was it, the Karen?
Yeah.
His armor. I thought it looked a lot like WoW armor.
I didn't care for it either.
That was my first impression. I was kind of like, I don't like the big bulky armor. I just don't like that style.
Yeah, but it is a crappy style.
Right, but like you said, the environment looks incredible. I do like the environment.
Absolutely,
the way it looks.
And it could have a graphics overhaul later on. Like EverQuest 2 still looks pretty good.
Right, I think so too. People say that it looks dated. I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't look as good as Final Fantasy XIV
or even
Realm
Vanguard
Reborn, or some of these other games that have just come out. But it's been out since 2004.
Yeah,
I mean, it's, for the love of God, it's what that makes it 9 years old.
You just give it a break. Jesus.
Right. Game's not going to last forever unless you do a complete overhaul to the graphics. And I will also point out to everyone that talks about WoW. WoW actually did have a graphics refresh where they did some tweaking to the graphics a few years back. So it's not the original graphics that came out. I think they're a little bit higher resolution.
Yeah, was that when we first started trying to play it, and I was in it for
I believe it was after that.
Okay,
it was after that. It was during our gaming hiatus.
Oh boy, it's just hard to find a good game nowadays.
That's the truth. That's very true. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I think we probably run this one into the ground.
Yep.
I guess let's talk about the sound.
Okay.
Talked about graphics. The music, I think, is absolutely beautiful.
As you heard, on our intro,
Right.
which SOE, please don't sue us. That's a stunning piece of music right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if they go that quality, the rest of it for the music, and follow that with the sound effects for the rest of the game, I will be very, very pleased.
And you might not even mute your music this time in a game.
I might not if it's that quality. Right.
Yeah. Av has...
might turn it down,
yeah.
but I might not turn it off. In games, I usually turn the music off because it just gets in the way.
Right.
I can't hear people.
Yeah, I do turn mine down, but I like to have it there just to get the emotion, and I get emotionally vested in a game because of the music and how well it's made. Right. But yeah, some of the sound effects we heard in some of the videos sounded really, really cool too. It wasn't just recycled garbage.
Loud noises. Right. All right. So I guess it's enough on sound since we don't really have a lot of samples at this point. So can't really go off of it, but generally they do a really good job on the sound. Well, let's see what else. I think something else that's going to be really interesting about the game is the SOE emote. It's kind of cool in EverQuest 2, but the character design doesn't really lend itself to that technology. I think it could be really cool, especially with the exaggerated faces and the bigger mouths to give it more expressiveness. I think that's a really cool idea. Only other thing I could see that might get in the way of that, and this is kind of probably going to roll into the whole gameplay hotbar issue for me, is the actual emotes. So you have this expressiveness that you can do with the web camera. Basically you point it at your face, calibrate it, and you open your mouth and the character's mouth opens. So it kind of makes me believe they might actually have in-game voice chat.
Yeah. A lot of games are doing that.
And a lot of games are doing that. And the issue I have with in-game voice chat is the fact that either have it on or you do it in groups. Like in Lord of the Rings Online, you can turn it on so that when you group, then you can talk to people. Otherwise, there is no voice. Right. You have to group in order to do it, which is probably a good idea just because...
You don't want some random asshole kid coming up to you and just... chewing your ear off.
But on the same token, that would incredibly increase the immersion of the game.
It would.
Right?
It would.
But the other issue I have with that is if you're going to do something like that, it would be really nice to include technology to be able to change your voice so that, like, say you play a Rotanga, you don't sound like 6'5", hulking whatever. You would actually sound more what I would think be a Rotanga or a gnome or whatever. So that would be cool. Yeah. Otherwise, it would ruin the immersion for a lot of people. And that's a complaint that a lot of people have in a lot of games, is that voice chat ruins their...
Your mouth is blah, 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 blah. I don't know what the hell you're saying. Just shut up.
It ruins the immersion.
Right.
Because they have this idea of what an elf sounds like, or a Rotanga, or whatever, and then they hear, whatever, and they're like, that just really ruins it. Yeah. And I kind of agree with that, which is why I generally don't use in-game voice chat. We have our own guild TeamSpeak.
Right.
A lot of people do the same thing.
Which I think is better because the quality is better than what you would get in a game.
Right. And you can control that, and you can control who enters and who doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Me being a control freak, I like having that.
But, and this actually brings me to another point. And one of the big problems that I have that was announced was the fact that there's only going to be one hotbar with 8 hotkeys.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going, well, what are we going to do about shortcuts for emotes and things like that? How are we going to hotkey those in order to be able to do those much more easily?
Right. They did say, though, that is just the combat aspect. They haven't revealed the UI in any sort of way. But then again, they were going for the more immersive, not so much their UI. So,
right. They wanted you to play the game, not the UI.
Right. And
I think was the comment.
It's okay, but I like to have an option at least to open up more hotbars.
Right.
At the very least.
Or at least to be able to make shortcuts.
Yes.
There was a game I played years ago, and I can't remember the name of it. It's been shut down for years and years, but they didn't have hotbars. What they would allow you to do is drag an ability or whatever to the desktop, and it would create a little icon on your desktop, and then you could right-click it and assign any shortcut combination you wanted, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, but it seems a little like alt-tabbing out, unless you did it in windowed mode. Right?
No. It was on the game itself.
Oh, the game itself. Okay.
Right. So you just drag it to your game, like on the corner or whatever.
Oh.
The only issue there is every time they did a game update, it would delete all your shortcuts and you had to do it again.
Oops.
Yeah, I got really upset and quit the game after like 6 months of that.
Oh.
Especially with monthly updates, and I had 30 plus shortcuts.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of an issue with me. The other issue that I kind of have, that this kind of goes along with the whole UI issue, is the fact that you're going to have so you have 4 hotkeys that are going to be class abilities, what I understand. 4 of those are going to be tied to your weapon. 4 of those are going to be tied to your class.
Right.
That to me just seems really limiting.
Mm-hmm. And then they do say that you get all sorts of, I'm jumping a little ahead though.
Right.
The cross class or whatever they call it now. What the hell they call it? I'm drawing a blank.
Right. Your first 4 are tied to the weapon. Your weapon determines your class. Then you can't change those. Those are always going to be static depending on the weapon.
Right, but they're saying that like for your character class itself, instead of just like the weapon class, you can swap those out. But I would want to have an extra hotbar for that. I'm not gonna. I hate being limited, and that just seems very limiting.
I do too, because I like utility spells.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a point of the game that I'm really iffy on at this point.
Right.
Well, I love the game and I really want to play it. I have my issues, my doubts, and with this whole aspect of the game, just because it would be.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just think it would be really nice if they didn't like limit you to 4 and 4. Because like say I'm playing a casting class.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming what they're probably doing is like some other MMO, which I won't talk about or mention its name, limiting your combat abilities to your weapon, which I don't like. Because if I'm a caster, what do fireballs and things that I cast have anything to do with my weapon?
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned. So if I'm playing a wizard, I have a staff. I can bash people with my staff. What if I'm not going to hit people with my staff. So if you're tying all of my combat abilities to that particular staff and weapon, like say it's a fireball staff, and that's all I can do with that weapon, that is wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong. You should not do that.
Right, yeah, and I agree. Which is why I'm glad that they have these roundtable discussions, which, I'm jumping ahead, I'm sorry. We'll get back to that. To where, you have the community involved, the people that are actually going to play the game and actually invest time into the game, get them involved and see what they like, see what they don't like. So hopefully that'll come up and people will just be like, we'll just shoot it down right away. I'm hoping.
Well, yeah, exactly. But what I would kind of like to see is if they're going to limit it to 8 keys, which I don't like, I think it should be limited to the 12. 8, I think, is just too few.
Right.
Because original EverQuest had 8 hotkeys. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could memorize 8 spells or whatever. And to me, it was too limiting. I was constantly, like when I changed zones or spawns or went into a different situation, I was constantly having to get rid of spells and sit down and memorize them and swap those out.
Right.
Just based on the instance, which isn't a bad thing, but it takes away from that gameplay because you're constantly having to go, well, I only have 8, and for this, I'm going to need this, or I might need that, so I'm going to have to swap it out. So instead of playing the game, I'm going to be looking at my abilities going, okay, what can I get rid of?
Right, yeah. To
swap out for this ability that I need. And that, to me, is going to cause problems. The other thing that I was thinking about is it might be nice if, because I can see, like a warrior or something that uses the sword and has abilities tied to that, and that's the way their combat goes, that yeah, they might want to have all 4 of those. But I was thinking, well, what if you don't limit 4 and 4? What if you just have the 8 or the 12, which I would really like, and then say I can use those for as many class abilities as I want, swap them in and out, or for my weapon abilities. So for fighters, they could have more weapon abilities, and for casters, well, I don't really want to hit something with my staff, so I'm just going to use all class abilities.
Right.
I think, and once again, I have no idea how they're going to tie abilities to weapon, and I certainly hope that they don't tie like fire. You have a fire staff and all you can cast is fireball with it. So if you want to do ice damage, you have to swap the weapon. I seriously hope they don't do that, because to me, that's really ridiculous and way too much like another game that's coming out that I do not like in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Yeah. It's too limiting.
Way too limiting. I like options, and I want to play my class and my character the way I want to play it.
Exactly.
Okay, so I would probably run that one into the ground too. We are a little passionate about our games, so we're a little opinionated when it comes to this.
A little bit, and I don't say much because I practically agree with how if I don't, I'll just be like, nope, I don't.
Right.
Let's see, what do we want to do? The combat. I mean, that kind of goes into the hot bar bullshit.
Right, yeah. We haven't seen much of the combat. It looks interesting, and once again, I can't really comment because I haven't played it. All I've done is seen a very early demonstration of the combat system, and that could change. We don't know.
Exactly. It seemed like, from what we saw, it seemed more AoE based, which is okay, but I don't really care for it because what about the healing stance? And we don't know much about that at all. So
right, and they also did say that they were going to kind of change the Holy Trinity. So I'm not really sure what's up with that. And I've actually heard people say, they and I enjoy it myself. I enjoy being the healer.
Yep.
But I believe they said that if you want to do that, you can play that role,
which would be great because we are more so old school. I'm a tank. That's what I do.
Right. But I mean, I think one of the pluses to their system, I'm not completely negative against it, is the fact that since you can have multiple classes and swap out, like say I normally play the guild healer. If nobody else is on, I can swap out abilities or whatever and become more combat oriented and solo or do whatever.
Right.
So in that respect, I like it a lot because it doesn't limit you in that respect. I also like it. It also, in some ways, kind of reminds me, not completely, but like Star Wars Galaxy system, where you could learn abilities from the different groups of abilities and get classes that way. So I don't know. It'd be kind of nice to see that again and be able to swap them out and not have to worry about. I don't need like 4 characters, one for healing, one for tanking or whatever, because I can just have the one and swap out my abilities and gear and be done with that.
Right.
Which is another good point. So if you don't have hot bars, so how are you going to deal with the swapping out of gear? And they said they have something in mind, but I hope it's something easy to use.
I hope so too. And going on with that, like with group sizes, I really hope they don't limit it to 4 because that was just stupid. That is just stupid.
Right.
6, so many people.
I hope.
Yeah, at least 6. So many people feel left out. I mean, when you do 4, yeah, if only you need 4, whatever, that's fine, but still be able to have more and then just dominate or have it. Don't they have some sort of systems besides being instanced, which I don't like instanced. Besides being instanced, once you go into a cave and you have more than the recommended amount in a group, isn't there a way for it to upscale without it being instanced?
Without it being instanced, I don't know. I mean, it's a decent question, but then you kind of run into the whole emergent AI issue.
Right.
So I don't, and once again, obviously monsters are going to have to be spawned somewhere. because they just can't. I mean, that's what spawning is. They just appear in the world somewhere.
Right.
I don't think the creatures in the world are going to give birth and have them grow up.
Well,
So,
you never know.
I don't think it's going to be that realistic.
And pull an Anakin.
Right. But you would think with a system that has that type of AI, that like say you go in to Crushbone, where you have, the Orc King, which name escapes me now, and I've played that zone when I played EverQuest 40 billion times. King Crush, that's because it was named after him, duh. But anyway, that's why we call the Crushbone Orcs. But, you go in with a larger group, you would think, okay, well, Crushbone knows you're there. You may not be to the throne room yet or in his tower or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he sends more mobs after you or whatever and increases the number based on that. You would think, that should be possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why. Now, it would be a lot more difficult out in the real world to do that, but in dungeons, I would think, you should be able to do that just because.
Right. Yeah. It's just weird. I'm very interested to see what they do with everything.
I am too. I mean, very, very intrigued.
Okay.
The questing, I think, should be very interesting. The fact that you won't have to run up to X and go get said quest.
Right, and there won't be any sort of question mark above their heads or anything, so they say. So it's going to be interesting.
Which I think is better for immersion.
Right, maybe they'll make the entire person glowy, a certain like shade of color. Maybe. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I could still be immersed in the game,
right,
and have some glowing naked woman in front of me saying, "Do this quest for me."
Right. I think the emergent AI is going to be really nice, especially in towns.
Oh yeah,
because I think it's going to allow the NPCs in a town to actually have a life, so to speak.
Yeah. You have to turn this quest in to, say, a blacksmith or something. He's from in his house. So you go in his house and search for him. He's not there. You see him in the street and you stop him. He's like, "Hey, how's it going, dude?" And you're like, "Hey, I want to turn this quest." And then your dialogue box goes away and he just continues walking away. So I could see that as being an issue because maybe they just get bored with you and just want to walk off.
Right. So I don't like you, so I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
Exactly. So you can't turn in your quest and get your uber sword.
Right. Or it could be very interesting that maybe you've lost faction.
Yeah.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
And you can't talk to him because you've lost faction, or he's pulled up stakes and moved to a different town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That could be true too.
So you may have to figure out, okay, well, where did he go? That could be kind of interesting.
Yeah. And I've gotten lazy as of recently, so I really hope that they have a mini map and like an arrow telling me where to go. I mean, let me explore on my own, and I will explore. I love exploring. I love jumping off of cliffs and whatever, but I do need some sort of, okay, in this general area is your quest, and then this area is where you get to turn in, or something like that.
Right.
That's just for me, though.
I think there's got to be something like that, because I think the quests are going to be area-based.
Yeah.
They'll be based around a town or an area. You'll go into an area, and they mentioned that you'll be able to see things that are going on in the area. So
yeah.
I would assume that there will be some indicator somewhere as to
where to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. At least area wise.
Yeah.
Or give instructions in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
that we can tell what's going on.
Yeah, that's just me being lazy because of games nowadays. They just coddle you and hold your hand.
Right.
So
well, I mean, I still remember the quest in Vanguard that we spent 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yes.
And the guy kept saying he's east. He's to the east.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept going east, and we went everywhere east, and there was nothing there. And then we're like, well, this is ridiculous. We have been all over this place. There's nothing anywhere around here. So we went west, and guess what?
He was west.
It was west.
Yep. So hopefully they know their directions.
Right.
That would be nice. Also, that takes me back to like line of sight and aggro when we were in Vanguard beta, and that Yeti thing. just chased us for like 3 hours straight. We were on the other. They had killed us,
Right.
and we
Right.
spawned.
We die,
yeah,
respawn.
like 2 kilometers, or whatever their measurement of distance was, away from the thing. And we're like, okay, we were in the forest. We're in the desert now. We're safe. Nope. This dude comes running off out of nowhere and just slaughters us. It was frustrating, but it was fun as hell.
It was funny. Yeah, it was funny, especially when we respawned like the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden we died again.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh, but it's like shit like that gives you the memories that
Right.
It's frustrating at the
Absolutely.
time, but we were so mad at the time. But now that we're looking back on it, we laugh and we're like, that was great.
Right.
Oh, that had what I really like in a story. An ending.
Okay. So, what can we do now? Economy?
Yeah, so this is a huge thing, and it's kind of a good segue because one of the things that we just talked about are the memories.
Mm-hmm.
And economy to me is not just about money, and it's not just it's a bigger picture.
Yes.
So it's like when we were playing Star Wars Galaxies, one of the things that I loved about the game was the crafting system,
Yes.
harvesting system. The fact that the crafters really kind of needed the help of other people to be able to harvest, like we would do skins for this armor crafter, and he would commission us to go out. He would say, okay, well, these skins are dropping off of these creatures on this planet. Get as many of them as you can for me, and I'll pay you X amount for X amount.
And that was great. I mean, if he's listening, which I highly doubt, his name was Nazareth. That dude was awesome.
Right.
And that's how I met all you guys.
Right,
Because of
exactly.
him.
So we would actually, as a guild, make money that way.
Yeah.
Because there was this give and take that needed between the crafters and, adventurers. And it's very rare to find that in a game. Normally, it's the crafters make all the money and the adventurers pay all the crafters the money.
Right.
Because they need the gear. And it's very frustrating.
Mm.
But I mean, that to me, and that's also the types of things that make memories, because you've made a name for yourself as a guild, because you go out and do these things for this crafter.
Yeah.
Just one of it's the little things that add up to the fun big picture.
Right. And I mean,
it's not the combat system, right?
It's the memories you make, and then when when a game falls through, it's emotionally damaging. I mean, as dumb as that sounds, you invest so much, you put yourself in your character, you meet all these people, and it sucks when it doesn't work out.
The worst part, truly, is that I made some real friends here, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to see them again.
Yeah. You end up crying a lot like that.
Right. Which, okay, so that to me, it's got to have a decent harvesting system. You're not going to have harvesters like you did in Star Wars Galaxies, obviously.
Right.
But I think, I don't particularly care for the old style WoW or whatever. Oh, look, there's an iron node. Really? They just pop up on the ground over there. There's just, I have a problem with that. While it's okay, I think for immersion and whatever, you can do better.
Yeah.
I think they will. I really think they will.
Absolutely. Like according to the new video that was just released yesterday about EverQuest Next Landmark and the mining and that, you'll be able to actually dig, and I guess during your digging, depending on what tier you're in, you'll gather stuff.
Right, and that to me, that's awesome.
Yeah, and also they said there's going to be 3 different types of inventory: your personal inventory,
right,
and then your chests that you can put in your little area, your claimed area, and then a vault that you can build. And what's really cool about that is, and I know I'm jumping ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
If I go over to your plot of land, since obviously we're going to be playing together, and you have a vault built, and I have all my crap in there, but I want to help you build something. As long as you have a vault built, I'll be able to access my stuff through your vault, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Hopefully there'll be something similar in EverQuest Next as in Landmark. I think that's an awesome idea. I love the fact that you can build your own chests and expand your inventory.
Yes.
Instead of having to pay said company to expand inventory. I think that's nice. I mean, yeah, if I want to buy a chest, sure, but I should be able to make it and expand it myself without having to do anything other than harvest, craft, and in-game money.
Right.
That's just me. But the crafting system is very, very important to me in that. And I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be so elaborate that it's going to be very nice. I think it'll probably rival, I'm hoping it'll rival what was in Star Wars Galaxies, because I think it had the best crafting system, any game, hands down, I have ever played.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
In depth, but it wasn't too in depth. I think the only issue that I had with that crafting system was harvesting portion of it. The fact that the different metals had different characteristics. I think that really hurt a lot of crafters, because it was the people like Nazra who've been around for a long time and knew the different metals and what was best for what.
Exactly.
And they had a lot of it stockpiled.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So, the different qualities and different metals popped up at different periods of time, and you never knew when it was going to happen. So it was a full-time job, basically, running around and sampling and going, okay, well, that's not good.
Well, yeah.
Check this. So,
and a lot of people like doing that, though, It's another aspect of the game that they like. Right.
It's just, might have been a little too in-depth for me. But, some people do like that. And I guess that it could be a good thing. But they said there were, in Landmark, there's only going to be, there's 50 types at this point. And they're tiered.
Yes.
And I think they said they were tiered based on the levels in the world.
Oh, yeah.
At least the gems or something were. Which is cool. I have no problem with that. So that's a huge point. The crafting system has to be nice. I mean, I've always thought, I know we've discussed this, but nobody else has ever really heard. I have some interesting, I don't know whether they're interesting. I think they're interesting ideas about crafting, in that one of the issues that you have in an economy is, when you're learning to craft something, you basically churn out umpteen of daggers, iron daggers, in order to get experience in crafting.
Right, you're cutting out just a little bit.
All right. So one of the issues with that is that you either then destroy them, or hold on,
I'm gonna lick you. Laugh out loud.
Or or you try to sell them.
Right.
And then you basically flooded the world with 100 iron daggers. So you basically devalued it. And the same thing happens, with spawn drops. You figure out that this mob drops this item, so everybody eventually figures it out, which will not be that way in EverQuest Next, because mobs will eventually move, obviously.
Right.
Because the emergent AI.
Yeah.
But it still is going to be an issue with any economy. If it's not for that, something else will cause the flooding of the market. So I have always thought that I like being able to take a dagger and then break it apart for its components.
Yeah, so that you can actually recycle. Yep.
Right, you can recycle stuff, and you can do the same with items that you pick up in the world. Yeah, that'd be great. But one of the other things that I always thought was really interesting, really cool about some games is they have different styles of weapons from, like in Vanguard, the different continents had different styles of weapons. Yes, and the armor, the style, yep. Right, exactly. And you'd have to go to the different continents to learn those styles from those crafters. Which, didn't they kind of touch on that in EverQuest Next? Like they have racial armor? Yes, I believe so. But one of the things that I was thinking that would be nice, and it also helps with flooding the world with these items, is say I'm a crafter and I want to learn how to make this really cool looking armor. Well, if I get a piece of armor, I can basically deconstruct it as like a reverse engineering and have a chance to learn it, right? Yeah. Kind of like they did in that other game that we don't play anymore. Right. But to a better extent. But to a better extent, not just the item, the style of the item, because I can already make shoulder pads or shoulder armor. Who cares? But it's the style, or like say it's got +5 strength on it. Right. Well, I only know how to make, shoulder armor that has +1 strength or whatever, or with a specific stat or whatever. And I want to deconstruct it to learn how to do that. I think that would increase.
I'm sorry. All I heard was blah, blah, blah. I'm a dirty tramp.
Sorry, I had to.
Right.
But yeah, I know.
I think
get
that
you.
would help remove items from the world. It would also, like adventurers, they could sell their junk or X, Y, and Z to crafters
Right.
for them to do that, or you could learn to do. If you wanted to learn that yourself.
Yeah, because you definitely need that interaction. If you're gonna have a good economy, you have to have that give and take.
Exactly, and that would be one of the things. I also I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it also helps with that is when you have a system where weapons and armor they have a what's the word I'm thinking of, a durability, and they lose some of this durability over time, and you have to repair your gear.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the way a lot of games do it, where you go to an NPC
and repair it with one
and they repair your gear, because that doesn't allow for player interaction. Now, on the flip side of that, the only problem that you have, unfortunately, is what if there are no crafters on? And I can't repair my gear.
Exactly.
So, I'm...
One way they got around that with Star Wars Galaxies that I really liked was the armor repair kits.
Right, that's true. They did have armor repair kits, so maybe they could do something like that. With EverQuest, is crafters could make armor repair kits, weapon repair kits.
That'd be great.
Whatever. Or maybe the durability is kind of like you have a whetstone to sharpen your sword for swords, and what have you, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that could be a solution to that. So
right, and
instead of
I don't want it to be like something where, let's say I got a really, really neat drop, but every time I repair it, the durability falls every 20 points or so.
Right.
So then it becomes useless after a while. But it's my favorite weapon. Am I going to have to go out and try to farm this, which I can't do because I got to find the damn thing.
Right.
So I agree with you that you shouldn't be able to go up to an NPC, click a button, and everything's fixed. Voila. There still has to be that interaction. So with the armor repair kits and the weapon repair kits, repair them up to 100% or repair them up to 50%, depending on the quality of the armor repair kit. Don't drop the total durability and make the weapon useless after 5 or so kits. That's just stupid.
Yeah, that was the one aspect of Star Wars Galaxy that I didn't like, is eventually it was going to break. I think the way to get around that is basically your weapons and armor, so you have to replace it every so many levels. I like the idea that they had where once I get a drop and it has a particular look, that I can basically change any piece. If I get another helmet that I like the stats better on, but I like the look of the previous one, well, I can then use the visual aspect of the previous one, but the stats of the second one.
Yeah, that's cool.
I guess you have a list, so you can change out how it looks. That's cool. Not sure how that's going to work out with crafting. So maybe that'll just be on certain item drops and specific high level, drops, things like that.
Right.
Not specifically to like crafted items.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, that's pure speculation.
Yeah, we'll find out soon enough, hopefully.
Right. I hope so too. Kind of killing me.
Yeah.
I really want to know. Now let's see. One of the other things back in my mind. Oh boy, what was it?
You got me. Maybe.
It had something to do with items and crafting.
So you want this old guy doing you in your house, on your bed, or wherever?
That jog your memory.
No, that kind of scares me.
How do you feel about my fang in your mouth?
Even creepier. Okay. What was I?
I'm gonna lick you.
Well, the thought's gone now. It's gone forever. I've been traumatized.
Sorry.
So I guess we'll go on to housing.
Yes.
Housing. No instances.
Absolutely not.
Housing.
Fuck that.
Yeah. I don't agree with it.
Nope.
It's cool in some games. Well, okay. So I don't exactly completely disagree with it, but only in limited forms.
Well, the best system that I thought was Star Wars Galaxies. We're going to keep going to that.
Right.
You can see the houses. You can have it open to all. People can go in. You can have it permission based. That is great. Just use that system. Everyone will be happy, I think.
I like the idea of guild towns.
Yes.
I like the idea of being able to go out and go, okay, we're going to claim this plot of land and we're going to put down some houses. And wow, we can put down like a guild hall or whatever, or a city hall, whatever you want to call it, and have a little town and be able to do whatever, and maybe even have to fight off, orcs or goblins or whatever.
Yeah, like they were saying that everything is destructible. Have like if you got a guild city, have like the taxes and whatnot actually be able to protect your city. So when you run out of money, especially with houses, so the plots aren't just full of abandoned houses. Have it so that when you run out of upkeep, let's say 2 weeks after that, your house is open game. If someone wants to buy that plot, then they can destroy your house and take that plot. And everything that was in your house goes into an escrow so that you don't lose that and, piss off all the other players that maybe come back.
Right. I agree with that. I think that's an awesome idea. I also think that it would be cool if, say, you have a guild town that you could hire, like, say, city guards and have to pay upkeep on those so when people are offline, they fight away the orcs or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then you have to repair town, like if the orcs come and they raid or whatever, because you built a little too close to
their stronghold.
Their strongholds or whatever, and they're like, we don't like you people around here, so you're screwing up our neighborhood, and they attack your town and maybe destroy a wall or a building or whatever, and you have to rebuild.
And the city goes to shit.
Right. I think that would be cool. I think that would add a very cool, unique aspect, for a PvE server. For a PvP server, guild towns could actually be kind of cool.
With guild wars.
Because you could have guild wars and, attack other players' towns, which I actually played a game that was like that. It actually turned me off to PvP, but... but it was cool for the 2 years that I played it. But, for people who like that type of thing, it's actually kind of cool because you build your town, you hire guards, you build walls, you build, the tavern, you build shops, and you hire shopkeepers or a blacksmith or whatever. Yeah. It could be really cool if done properly. The world will have to be very, very large.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the biggest virtual world ever built.
I also think that there should be a limit to where you can plop down a house. Like one of the issues that was horrible in Star Wars Galaxies was, I forget the city, but it was actually on the planet that we had our guild town.
Corellia.
There was one particular city, Corellia, that there was basically, it was like miles and miles and miles and miles of houses.
Yep.
And they were just in disarray, plopped down here, there, everywhere. And in some cases, you couldn't even get between houses. It was so bad.
Yeah.
And you had to go around this urban sprawl. It was horrible. So I think a limit to the areas where you can put down. You have to pay upkeep, otherwise you're going to lose it. It should only be able to expand so much, reasonable amount, obviously. Maybe you don't have, maybe not every guild can have a city, but I don't know. Some way to limit it, but I think also tools to administer the city. Like, I think it would be really nice. One of the things that I had an issue with Star Wars Galaxies was the fact that, you had this town, but then people could put their house wherever.
Yeah.
And there was no organization to it unless you like we did. We were like, okay, we're going to reorganize and everybody needs to be on, and you're going to pull up your house and move it and orient it this way and put it right here so that we can have some type of organization.
Right. Yeah. Because I love having the feeling of like streets and blocks.
Right. Right. And I think it would be kind of cool if, you kind of expand on that so that you can actually design the city before people put down houses, so that you can actually go, okay, well, here's a plot, and that the front door has to face a certain way, and this is going to be a street right here. So you basically have a grid that you can lay out.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like on
Right.
Yeah. You make like, because in Landmark they say that you can build like schematics, and hopefully those schematics can come with you to next.
Right.
So if you build a whole city schematic, lay that that would be perfect.
And then people can build their house on X plot and not have to worry about it. The house has to be less than a certain size. It may not have to fill the whole plot if they don't want to, if they can't afford it.
Right.
Right. I think that would be awesome, and it shouldn't be that difficult because they're already kind of doing very similar things along those lines.
Right.
I think that would be awesome.
We could talk about housing until we're blue in the face.
Right.
That's just how much we love it, because we also love the customization of housing. Build it the way you want, have it whatever size you want within reason, and being able to display your past trophies.
Yes.
That decorating was amazing in Star Wars Galaxies and Vanguard. They brought it into Vanguard, and it was great. Right.
And in EverQuest 2, you can do a lot of that stuff. The only issue is that the limitation in EverQuest 2 was that you didn't have in Star Wars Galaxies was anything in the world could be dropped in a house. So, every weapon that I collected, I could put on the wall. You can't do that in EverQuest 2, which I think is a little limiting. But if they go with the way that they did it in Star Wars Galaxies, and you basically, it would be awesome.
Yeah, I didn't like the housing in EverQuest 2 because it's just like everybody went to one door and it was all instanced. I hated that. I want to see other people's houses. I want to be able to go around them. I want to be able to go inside them too.
Right. Yeah, I think you could do that in EverQuest 2, but it was all instance housing.
Yeah, and I hate the instance.
We're kind of against instance housing just because.
Yeah.
But, this brings up all kinds of things of upkeep and being able to make roads and then put other things around the city like fountains or whatever. But this is kind of getting silly. But you could do that kind of stuff in Star Wars Galaxies.
Absolutely.
Some people think it's stupid.
No, city
we
decorations.
Actually like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's another aspect to the game that gives you something else to do. For us, it's the little things. And it also, increases the memories just because, other things that you have to deal with. Which also brings us, I guess, to the guild system.
Yeah,
we're kind of talking about that. You have to have the proper guild tools, and like one of the things that Eyes and I have always discussed that's always a problem, and other guilds have this problem too, is when to schedule raids and guild events, because you don't know what people's schedules are. And some people are like, well, maybe I could be on blah, blah, and then they can't because they got to work or they get called into work or whatever, and that stuff happens.
Exactly.
And a calendar would be really nice.
Yep.
And one of the things that would be really awesome is if players could, when they join a guild, they can go to the calendar and put in when they can play.
Right, and this calendar would be accessed through the game along with whatever website your guild website is on.
So you could do it in-game or out of game.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little phone app. That would be cool too.
Absolutely.
So I could change my schedule from my phone and let people know, hey, I'm not going to be on, or hey, my schedule just opened up for this time period on Saturday, so we can actually do that raid. That would be awesome. That way, guild leaders can schedule guild events based on when more people are going to be on.
Yep, and that would solve a lot of issues. A lot of issues, because we'd always have that. We'd have just enough people, except for one. And then it's like, they would say, oh, well, I'll be on, I'll totally be on. And then they don't show. And it's like, oh, come on.
And then you got to do a pickup person. Find one person.
And then pickup groups.
Yeah, we're not going to go there.
Yeah. Some people can be really, really cool.
I know.
But we've come across some people that, well.
Yeah, we picked up a few guildies that way, but
yeah.
More that we're very transient than permanent.
Yeah. A lot of them kind of scared us a bit.
I cannot believe that I'm actually thinking about masturbating. Your cat.
Yeah, some of them wouldn't surprise me.
Right. Okay. So
with vehicles though. I loved in sorry to jump off topic, but I loved in Star Wars Galaxies how you could have, a multi-person vehicle and one person drive, because I drunk half the time playing these
Right,
games.
right.
And just to be able to go into someone else's vehicle and have them drive
I drive a Dodge Stratus!
would have been great.
Right. I think that is another aspect. It's a little difficult to do in a fantasy game, but
Mhm.
it's definitely doable.
Well, have like another saddle on a dragon or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, a dragon, you can put multiple people on it, or, a horse-drawn carriage.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do, like a large magical flying something, it's a magical world. Magic works.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I know some people are against flying mounts, but to me,
You gotta have 'em.
I think it's
part of it.
I like it. I like mounts. I like flying mounts. I want to be able to get around. I think they should be level limited, obviously.
Yes.
So that level 1 can't have, the flying Pegasus or the badass looking dragon.
Right.
I'm against that, but it does cause issues on PvP servers. But I don't play on PvP servers. I play on PvE servers. So maybe you should have different rules about different mounts on PvE.
Right, and they won't go for that because they'll be like, well, why can you have it and we can't? Because you bitch about it. But anyway.
Right.
But I think that also with like the dragon, have multiple people on flying your dragon, and this is just me, but have an option for the driver to kick someone off of the dragon just whenever, just to see if they're paying attention. If someone's like, okay, we got a member, we love him, Wiener, he's great, but
that's his actual nickname.
Yes, that's
Wiener.
Right. He talks a lot, which is good, but then it kind of goes, okay, man, you talked a little too much. I'd love to kick him off my dragon and then just hear him, just the rage at me would be hilarious. And Wiener, if you're listening, we love you. We're gonna try to get this into the game so this can happen.
Just for you,
so you can bitch at me whenever you get kicked off of a dragon. I'm sorry. So. Offline notices, pretty much what it sounds like.
yeah, right. So, basically, it would be tied to the calendar, the guild calendar. So, I think it should be an app, and it should, be available on a website, and it should also be available in game to where, a player or the guild leader or anybody involved can put something on the calendar and like we're going to do a raid here, or I'm not going to be on, or whatever, and leave messages for other players or the guild or whatever, so that, they can keep informed of what's going on, because we have issues with that, because sometimes, said players in a guild may not be comfortable giving out their personal email address, but if they have this type of system, then they don't have to give it out, because, it's there. And it would be also kind of cool, because SOE is going to have my email address, that, if it's something like that, maybe I can check a box somewhere that says notify me of any offline messages, and it'll actually email me either a link to the message so I can go to the website and see it, or the actual message, maybe if it's for me or for the entire guild.
That would be
I can
great.
look at it.
Yeah.
That would be very nice, and that way players and guilds could keep in touch without having to share personal information. I think that would be a very nice touch.
Absolutely. And just to mess around, we figured maybe some sort of wife aggro warning. You push a button like Control, R, Control A, and then a big screen, especially if you're in a raid or something, and big red letters on everybody's screen says so-and-so has wife aggro. And
except for the person who has wife aggro, there would be no message on the screen.
Right.
That causes more wife aggro.
Right, exactly. So, or if you're really blunt and you're like me, I just tell my wife to shut it and wait until I'm done. But then I end up sleeping on the couch, which actually works out because I have more time in game. So it's a win-win.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So you have to spend a week on the couch. Anyway.
I'll figure it out. I'm going to use all the power of my brain.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this roundtable discussion
Yeah.
kind of goes with the guilds. It's one guild per character.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
agree with one guild per character just because, I don't think it's fair to a guild.
I'm more of a dictator, so I would say one guild per account, but that's just me.
Right. I kind of agree with that. I think maybe there should be there should be a way to actually maybe the guild should decide. So we don't want an account to have multiple guild affiliations. So we flag our guild as okay. Your entire account can only be a member of our guild.
Right.
And if you have any other guild affiliations, it'll give you a warning and say you have to either quit these other guilds to join ours, or you can cancel and say, no, sorry, I don't want to be a member of your guild because I don't want to give up my other guild affiliations.
Right.
Maybe it should be the guild's choice as to, whether the other players can have multiple guild associations. Maybe that's the way they should do it. Maybe it should be the player's choice or the guild's choice.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see why it can't be that way. That way, people who want to be affiliated with multiple guilds and guilds who don't have a problem with that, let them have at it. We don't like it because we tend to be a much smaller guild. We go with, a smaller group of players, quality as opposed to a quantity that some guilds go towards. And, so if you have multiple characters that you're splitting amongst multiple guilds, then you're not giving your intention, to our guild or raids, and it causes problems for us. So
it really does. And then the whole this guild A needs a few pieces of material that guild B has, so I'm gonna go in their bank,
right?
And it just causes all sorts of issues.
Problems.
Yeah,
right.
So that's a horrible idea, and I really hope it's not implemented at all.
Or we can at least dictate you can't have any other guild affiliations with any of your characters, or it's per character.
Exactly.
So.
Now, along with kind of going along with the same lines, should friend lists be account or character based? What do you think?
I actually think it should be the person's choice. Like, say, for some people, like you, I want my friends list to be account based so that on any character that I'm on, you can log in and see, oh, well, he's on that character, and I get a message. But say other people, maybe they're just a casual acquaintance and maybe they've been annoying and I want to jump on another character to get away from them.
Yeah.
I may not want them to know.
Absolutely.
Be able to reach me on my account and just make it character.
I agree with that.
Right? Or maybe there should even be a do not disturb checkbox. Like, say, I'm having a really bad day and I just want to go kill crap.
Right.
So I have this character over here and I've checked, I don't want to get messages from anybody. So I look offline to everybody.
Yeah, a lot like I am.
Right, yeah. So, it could cause problems, Yeah. It says you're offline, but I just saw you running through the town.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. It was somebody else. But it could be useful.
Yeah.
I exactly like IMs. I don't see why that shouldn't be a feature. I think that would be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Contested content.
Depends.
I don't like instances. So all content being contested, I think is kind of cool. But I think it should scale, so like say, we have 6 people in Crushbone. Mm-hmm. So the amount of orcs that come after us are, increased as opposed to if we only had 4.
Right.
But then another group shows up. Well, instead of us having to fight over every single thing in the dungeon or whatever you want to call it, maybe, the amount of orcs should increase to reflect the 2 groups.
Right. Yeah.
Because it is emergent AI.
Mm-hmm. Surely
the AI is smart enough to split those spawns of orcs that come after you, because they have to come from somewhere, amongst the 2 groups, instead of, because they're not going to be static spawns. So I'm going to assume that, there'll be rooms, but hopefully they can do something like that. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. And it also, that's good. I do like contested content, but I don't like it when you're trying to do something and there's that asshole, that one douchebag that goes around stealing all your shit. because they just want to be an annoying asshole.
Right, which, basically brings us to the issue of how do you get ownership of said mobs? And in different games, it's been done differently. Like some, it's first hit.
Yeah, and some it's most damage.
Most damage. And maybe in the world up above, it should be first hit, just because world content is more single player content. So sometimes you have groups of jerks, assholes running around stealing crap from a single person, and they can do more damage as a group.
Right.
So they get the mob, but if it's first hit, then, it doesn't matter. But in a dungeon where it should be more group oriented, maybe that one person shouldn't be there, but you always have that person that follows you.
Yeah.
Because you've killed all the mobs, and then they, you're getting ready to hit, the boss, and they tag it first, and you don't notice, and you kill it, and they get the loot. Hell no.
Yeah. Like, there is a kind of a newer type system coming out in a game that's coming out where everyone gets to share everything, pretty much. Yeah, it drops the loot based off of your group or yourself, which I think is a good idea when it comes to raid content and group content, in case you do have those couple of groups in the same area. So I think that would work.
Well, yeah, but then you're going to run into some other issues. So, yeah, you have, let's say it's a 2-group raid. You have a 12-man raid, and you're in said raid dungeon going after the boss, and this other group of 12 people show up. Well, unless that mob scales to those 2 groups, then you're going to have a problem because it's going to be 10 times easier to kill. Then the flip side of that is if one of those groups is being a dick and decides to pull out of the combat and watch you wipe because it's scaled up to 4 groups or 2 raid groups instead of just 1, what do you do then? Yeah, that's so there are these problems that you have with these concepts, because unless the AI is super smart, you're going to get screwed one way or the other. Because let's face it, dicks play these games just as much as the guilds and people who play fairly.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely.
So I can kind of see problems, but I do kind of like the idea that everybody gets loot. I was reading a thread, I think it was on Reddit, where they were basically talking about this whole concept, and the idea was, well, what do you do about boss mobs and the raid loot? Like in older EverQuest, you would do this raid and the mob might drop X, Y, and Z, and they basically, you would have to figure out who gets it. Yeah. And it might not always drop X, Y, and Z. So you have to go back and do that mob 40 times. Well, one guy already got his drop, so he didn't want to do it again.
Right. I ran into that issue with Vanguard. That was,
Right. So what's in it for them?
Right.
Which, with the proper guild, that's never really an issue. Mm-hmm. Because, like us, we tend to kick people like that out.
Absolutely. I mean,
because, I got my stuff, but I'm going to help you get your stuff. But not everybody's like that.
Right. Yeah. And
so
it goes along with the, you got to find the right people for your guild. Yeah. Which is another.
Right. Right. But so that brings up the other issue. Somebody actually suggested, well, you fight this dragon. Well, you have 12 people. So it drops like so many scales and teeth. They get divided amongst everybody, and then they can have a crafter turn that into weapons and armor.
Right.
Instead of like they get a sword or an armor piece, they can actually take that as a crafting component and get it made into something. That's an idea.
Yeah.
The other thing is that it's random, but then you have the issue of, well, it just dropped this piece of loot for a character and a class that's not even here, so it's completely useless. And I'm not sure what they're going to do with, like this whole concept of bind on equip and all this. I hate it.
Right.
I will state up front, I hate the whole bind on equip, bind on use, bind on pickup. I think it's horseshit. I think every piece of armor or whatever should be able to be traded or sold. Period. End of discussion.
Yep.
The only reason why they do this is for the economy, but if you create the economy correctly, you don't have that problem.
Exactly.
It's just 2 things to get items out of the world instead of making it
with.
right.
Sit there or
Instead
leave.
of
I don't give a what you do.
instead of binding it so that you can't use it
Mm-hmm.
or give it to somebody else. That to me it's a cop out and it's cheap.
It is very much so.
That's the easy way out.
And a lot of games are doing that.
I know, and I completely disagree with it.
Well, okay. Well, we kind of
right. So,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so you have to come up with a better system. The other thing is, like in some other games, if I'm attacking a mob and you're attacking a mob and we're not grouped, we both get experience and we both get loot.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I can see where there's issues, but I think that would be like the best way to go.
Right. It definitely, especially in the overworld where it's going to be more
Contested.
maybe single player environment instead of in the dungeons. That definitely makes a lot more sense.
Right.
Obviously the loot's not going to be as good, obviously. But then that speaks to a dungeon. So unless the loot scales, so I can see an issue where we have a 12-man raid, right?
Right.
And we go through with that 12-man raid, and we have this person who can't join the raid, but he's there, unless you lock the loot to the raid, which in that whole idea, if you hit it, get experience and loot, doesn't work, then you could technically get somebody some nice loot and them not even be in the raid by only being there and having to hit the mob.
Right. But
do some damage and get loot and experience.
Right. It should be like a timed thing too. They shouldn't like hit it once and then the rest of the battle they're done.
Right.
It should be like maybe a 5-second lockout or something.
Right.
If you don't hit it for 5 seconds, then you're screwed.
Well, like in EverQuest originally, if I did 51% of the damage to a mob as a low level, and then a level 50 came along and killed it with one punch, I got the experience in the loot.
Ah, okay.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is I can see an issue where you could actually power level people and get them really good gear and them not really put any effort into it.
Right.
Which I don't really agree with, and then on the same thing, they can run along your tails there and be hitting the mob, not being part of the thing, and also relatively easy to deal with. There's all kinds of problems, but hopefully they'll figure something out.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I mean, this is a lot of people give SOE crap for the shit that they pulled back in the day. But really, they've kind of been hitting straight recently,
Right.
And,
I agree.
And I don't think they would fuck up EQ. I mean,
no, absolutely not. I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that they're gonna fuck it up. I'm saying that they need to come up with a system that's going to be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
While not allowing people to ride on somebody's curtails. Skirt tails to get something without much risk.
Yeah.
Which, with the whole, if you can hit the mob.
I want to cuddle you.
Kind of causes the issue. I mean, when I was playing Guild Wars, those whole, area quests it's kind of like that. So you have this big mob running around that a bunch of people are kiting. And, you can kind of hit it and, and it was what you got was based off how much damage you did,
right.
But there's just something, so I can get a little something by just hitting it, not getting aggro, hopefully with the emergent AI though, that'll kind of curtail that, maybe with the emergent AI, it knows these 12 people are in a raid, so we're going to protect each other. This other person's not. So what does the mob do? It goes after the one person and smashes him.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to deal with it.
Yeah. Again, we can talk about that forever.
Yeah, right.
So moving along, build publicly or privately in Landmark,
right.
Which would also translate to the actual next game. I think it should be permission based. I think overall people should be able to see it no matter what, but they can't go inside to see, your shit pretty much.
Right. Unless you've given them permission or have it public access or whatnot. Yeah, right. I agree 100%. I also think there should be a jerk button, an asshole button. Kind of you're sitting there, you're building, and some dude comes along and starts heckling you.
Well, now, shut up, man. Now you are the troublemaker. Just get out of here.
I think you should be able to kick them from the premises.
And get out of my traitor. I want you out.
Yep.
You know, and basically ban them from seeing you or whatever. Kind of like, you know, you put somebody on ignore, same thing.
Yeah.
You put them on ignore and they can't see your shit anymore and they can't talk to you.
That'd be cool.
So,
And we already touched on the destructible land plots and stuff earlier, so
right.
I don't think we have to. We just did contested content. Appearance changeability. They kind of said, you know, if you like whatever armor you're wearing, but you find something better, you can wear that something better, but still have it look like your current armor, which is pretty cool.
Right.
So
I think that's awesome.
they might be able to have 2 slots, one for, say, clothing or just appearance, and one for actual armor. So when you actually don't have anything in the appearance slot, it's the appearance of your current armor. So that might be how they do that. I mean, we touched on that already, but that could be a way they do it.
It could be, right.
So,
but I definitely agree with that because, like they were saying, I can't count the number of games I've played where you get a piece of armor and you're like, oh, this looks really cool. And then you find something else that has better stats. You're like, oh, these stats are awesome. You put it on and it looks horrible.
Yeah, like an awesome-ass helmet.
Like,
and you put on the new helmet and you look like a penis.
Right, yeah. So that really bothers me. It's always annoyed me about games.
Laugh out loud.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to customize and play my character my way. I want to look how I want to look. Don't force me to wear crap that has better stats that looks like penis or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's horrible.
To young boys,
I think it's
cuddle with them, caress their body, work my penis.
God. You know, I think we're at a time period where we shouldn't have to deal with that crap anymore.
Yeah.
We have the technology. For the love of God, let's use it.
Yep. So, complexity of landmark design tools. We should get it all. Why not?
Right. The more complex, the better. I want to be able to do whatever.
Yep. It's like, I want it to be complex, but I don't want to have to read an extensive PDF just to learn how to do it.
Right. I think it should definitely be somewhat intuitive. Maybe some of the more advanced features should have some documentation to them.
Yeah.
But I think basically, you know, the basic tools should be user-friendly. I shouldn't have to read anything.
You want me to teach you sex?
You know, and then the more you familiarize yourself, hopefully you can figure it out.
Right.
But, yeah, I absolutely agree.
Yep.
They should be very complex because, you know, I want to be able to do whatever I want to do.
Exactly.
Be able to build whatever.
Yep.
And make it look awesome.
Exactly. And should all races be able to play all classes? Well, eventually, yeah, I guess. Well, depends on faction because they have that multi-classing. So, in a sense, all races can play most classes depending on faction, I believe.
Right. Now, I think it was discussed and somebody had brought it up that, you know, that was the idea. And I think it's a great idea, you know, so like say, you know, you're a dark elf or whatever. So you right off the bat, you can't play a paladin or, you know, something good, but you change your faction and voila, now I could be a paladin. Well, I think that should close off other classes. So like say you have paladin and just as an example, like a dread knight or a shadow knight or whatever, all of a sudden you can't play the Shadow Knight.
Right.
You can't be that class because you're faction. You know, I think there should be opposing class factions and ones that are neutral.
What positions have you tried?
Right. That goes along with classes and factions, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess. Sure. What's your stance? Yeah.
You fag!
Anyway.
What?
Anyway, but yeah. I think they're going to pull it off very, very, very sleekly. It's going to be really nice, I think.
I think so, too. I think it should be pretty cool. I like factions just because it adds an aspect of the game.
Mm-hmm.
That you have to make decisions on what you're going to do because if you want to be a certain class or you are affiliated with a certain race or town, you may not necessarily want to attack said mobs because you'll start losing faction with your town or whatever.
Exactly. Yep.
I think it causes people to have to think and make decisions because there actually are consequences to your actions.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, they've also mentioned that there are going to be other things, quests and choices that you make that will have consequences, faction and towns and things like that. And I think that's awesome. So, right. We have guildies that could have issues because of that. Well, you can't do this quest because you're a dumbass. So.
Yeah. Oh Yeah, so let's see. We'll go on to EverQuest next landmark. We hear we'll have combat elements, but not at launch. So that'll be interesting to actually feel the combat in the game. Again, going along with the single hotbar that we don't like, but that could possibly change. But then wouldn't they have to revamp the entire combat system?
I don't know. It depends on how they do it. I haven't seen it yet, so who knows?
Right.
I'm not really sure. I have my doubts, but I'm going to try to keep an open mind.
Yep.
When I do see it, and hopefully they will come up with something. And if whatever they come up with and nobody likes it, hopefully they'll change it.
Right, because there's just too many games out there that are crap, and we are sick and tired of playing crap.
Right.
So hopefully they'll hit it out of the park with this one.
Right. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Gonna end this on a couple of questions, maybe a little racy. Should David Georgeson cut his hair? What do you think?
I'm not going to answer that question.
The guy is awesome. He is a badass. I'll give him that.
I used to have long hair, so I can't really say anything.
Me too,
so.
and now I'm bald, so it's like...
I have really short hair now, yeah, because it's easier to take care of.
Right. I mean, he's rocking it, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But,
thumbs up to Dave.
Yeah. He's a he's a good guy. We really like him. We never met him. Hey, Dave, come on our show. Not like, episode 1 and we'll see what we get. But okay. And this next one.
I don't know. We might save that for further down the line.
Maybe. I don't know, but it's got to do something with a certain lead artist.
Right.
What bra size do you wear?
So anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're going to get hate mail.
Yeah, we are.
You're with us, Ron. What do you think? It's terrible. She has beautiful eyes and her hair smells like cinnamon.
And on that note,
I'm just infatuated with Rosie. Anyway, yeah, okay. Sorry, I know she's taken, and I'm taken too. So she's got kids, I don't. Hey, Anyway, sorry. I don't know.
Well, I'll give this little cookie an hour before we're doing the no pants dance.
Anyway, on that note, thank you very much for listening. If you did, in fact, listen to this entire thing. I'm Eyesadrift.
This is Oavvigo.
And we'll talk to you guys next time. Hopefully.
Tubby bye-bye.
So.
Tubby bye-bye.